September 12, 1998. Conservation Laboratory, National Museum of American History, Washington, D.C. Suzanne Thomason Krause spread the 54 by 28-inch American flag across the examination table under halogen lamps, her gloved hands moving carefully across wool bunting that had spent 53 years in darkness. This should be shredded. Every historical account says Japanese machine gunners targeted this flag specifically. 200 documented rounds. How is there nothing? The fabric showed the expected degradation, sun fading along the white stripes, minor fraying at the edges, the inevitable brittleness of 5-decade-old wool. But Thomason Krause had examined battle flags before. Bull Run flags carried shrapnel. Gettysburg colors showed musket ball punctures. Flags from Belleau Wood arrived at the Smithsonian with entire sections burned away by German flamethrowers. This flag from Mount Suribachi showed nothing. No bullet holes, no shrapnel tears, no burn marks from the dozens of Japanese knee mortar rounds that 5th Marine Division after-action reports documented exploding within 10 feet of the first flag-raising party on the morning of February 23, 1945. Thomason Krause pulled the magnification lamp closer and examined each of the 13 stripes individually, then each of the 48 stars embroidered into the canton. The microscopic analysis revealed age-appropriate wear, salt damage from Pacific humidity, volcanic ash embedded in the weave from Mount Suribachi's sulfurous summit. But no combat damage. None whatsoever. The historical record made this impossible. Lieutenant Colonel Chandler Johnson's written orders from February 23, 1945, preserved in the Marine Corps Historical Division archives, explicitly stated this flag was replaced 4 hours after the first raising because enemy fire made the position untenable and the flag itself presented an unacceptable target for Japanese gunners. Captain Dave Severance's official report noted that Corporal Robert Leader of Easy Company, 2nd Battalion, 28th Marines, had retrieved the colors under continuous small arms fire. Yet the flag Thomason Krause examined contained no evidence whatsoever of that continuous small arms fire. 5 of the 6 men who raised this flag at 10:37 a.m. on February 23 would be killed or wounded within 1 week. The flag they raised emerged without a scratch. Somewhere in the 53 years between Mount Suribachi and this conservation laboratory, the first Iwo Jima flag had acquired a reputation as a good luck charm. Marine Corps legend, the kind whispered in NCO clubs rather than written in official histories, claimed Corporal Leader carried this flag through 11 more Pacific battles in his pack, refusing to surrender it despite direct orders, believing it made him invincible. Looking at the pristine fabric under magnification, Thomason Krause began to understand why he might have believed that. The journey to this impossible preservation had begun 34 days earlier, on January 19, 1945, when the first American shells struck Iwo Jima's volcanic beaches. The island measured just 8 square miles, 4.5 miles long, 2.5 miles at its widest point. Mount Suribachi, the extinct volcano dominating the southern tip, rose 556 feet above sea level, its slopes honeycombed with Japanese defensive positions that provided overlapping fields of fire across every yard of black volcanic sand. Commander Tadamichi Kuribayashi had transformed Iwo Jima into the most heavily fortified piece of terrain in the Pacific War. His 109th Infantry Division and various attached naval units, 21,060 men total, occupied 11 miles of underground tunnels connecting 1,500 defensive positions. Kuribayashi's tactical doctrine represented a radical departure from previous Japanese island defense strategies. No banzai charges, no water's edge defense. Instead, his forces would remain hidden in reinforced positions, emerging only to kill Americans, then vanishing back underground before artillery could target them. Kuribayashi's standing orders regarding American flag raisers were explicit and documented in Lieutenant Toshihiko Ono's defensive logs from the 312th Independent Infantry Battalion. Soldiers who raise their flag on captured positions demonstrate leadership and morale value. Such individuals are worth 10 regular kills. Priority targeting of flag raisers will create psychological impact exceeding tactical casualties. On February 23, 1945 at 8 a.m., Lieutenant Colonel Chandler Johnson summoned First Lieutenant Harold Schreier to his command post in the shadow of Mount Suribachi. Johnson handed Schreier a 54 by 28-inch American flag, standard Marine Corps issue, manufactured by the Detra Flag Company of Oaks, Pennsylvania, constructed of wool bunting with embroidered stars. "Take this flag to the top of that mountain," Johnson said, pointing towards Suribachi's summit, still shrouded in morning haze and drifting sulfur smoke. "When you get up there, raise it where every son of a bitch on this island can see it." Schreier selected his patrol: Sergeant Ernest Boots Thomas, Sergeant Henry Hansen, Corporal Charles Lindbergh, and Private First Class James Michaels. Navy Corpsman John Bradley joined them, not officially part of the flag detail, but unwilling to let Marines climb into danger without medical support. Staff Sergeant Lewis Lowery, a photographer for Leatherneck magazine, accompanied the group to document the moment. The 40-man patrol began climbing at 8:30 a.m. Volcanic terrain made every step treacherous. Loose cinders, knife-sharp obsidian rock, unstable slopes that shifted underfoot. Japanese defenders had retreated into Suribachi's interior tunnels, but Marine intelligence estimated 300 enemy soldiers remained inside the volcano, with firing ports overlooking every approach. The climb took 2 hours and 7 minutes. Marines expected ambush at every switchback, every boulder cluster. They encountered scattered rifle fire, sporadic shots from hidden positions that killed nobody but kept everyone's heads down. At 10:20 a.m., the patrol reached Suribachi's crater rim. The summit plateau measured roughly 200 yards across, littered with destroyed Japanese equipment. Wrecked anti-aircraft guns, ammunition crates, the twisted remains of a Type 96 25mm machine gun emplacement at coordinates 145J7 that naval bombardment had demolished 3 days earlier. Near the northern edge, Marines discovered a Japanese weather station, a small concrete structure with a tall pole still standing. Corporal Robert Leader found a Japanese flag, folded carefully inside the weather station. He claimed it as a souvenir, stuffing it into his pack. At 10:37 a.m., the 6 Marines raised the American flag on a length of Japanese water pipe, lashing it upright with salvaged rope and wire. Sergeant Lowery captured 3 photographs. In the first image, 5 Marines struggle to lift the heavy pipe, while a 6th steadies it. In the second, the pole is nearly vertical. In the third, the flag unfurls against cloudy sky, while Marines below cheer. The entire operation took 4 minutes. Then, the Japanese opened fire. The first rounds came from Type 99 rifles, the distinctive crack of 7.7mm Arisaka cartridges fired from positions on Suribachi's northern slope, roughly 300 yards from the summit. Marines scattered for cover behind volcanic boulders. Sergeant Lowery dove into a crater, smashing his camera but saving the exposed film. Corporal Leader, sheltering behind the destroyed Type 96 emplacement, began counting impacts. The volcanic rock around the flagpole showed white scars where bullets struck, fresh chips in the black basalt, sharp and obvious. Leader counted methodically, the way his drill instructors at Camp Pendleton had taught him to estimate enemy force size by volume of fire. 47 impacts within 10 feet of the flag. He was certain. Some came so close that Marines crouching near the pole heard the supersonic crack as bullets passed overhead. But the flag itself, whipping in the summit wind, remained untouched. Japanese machine gun fire joined the rifle fire, the deeper hammering of a Type 96 light machine gun, probably the weapon at coordinates 145J9 that Marine intelligence had identified but failed to destroy during the preliminary bombardment. That gun had effective range of 800 yards. The Summit presented a target at 350 yards, well within killing distance. The Type 96 fired in bursts of 5 to 7 rounds, standard Japanese machine gun doctrine. Tracer rounds showed the bullets cutting through the air around the flag, red streaks in the morning light, passing within feet of the waving fabric. Leader watched one burst strike the water pipe pole itself, sparking off the metal just below where the flag attached. The pole rang like a bell. The flag danced in the wind, untouched. Lieutenant Schreier ordered the patrol off the summit immediately. No heroic posing for photographs, no celebration, just get down alive. The descent took 38 minutes of scrambling, sliding, and running through continued rifle fire that wounded one Marine, a through-and-through gunshot to the left shoulder that Corpsman Bradley patched with sulfanilamide powder and a pressure bandage. Down in the command post, Lieutenant Colonel Johnson received Schreier's report and made an immediate decision. The flag would be replaced. Not because it was too small, though at 54 by 28 inches, it was indeed difficult to see from distant positions on the island. Not because it presented an unnecessary target, though it certainly did that. Johnson's written orders, preserved in Marine Corps archives, stated the real reason. The first flag has symbolic value exceeding its tactical utility. It will be preserved regardless of subsequent operations. Johnson sent for a larger flag, a 96 by 56-inch Garrison colors that Ensign Alan Wood had brought from LST 779. At 1:30 p.m., Johnson handed the larger flag to Private First Class René Gagnon with instructions to climb Suribachi, raise the replacement flag, and bring the first flag down for preservation. Gagnon recruited 5 Marines for the second raising: Sergeant Michael Strank, Corporal Harlan Block, Private First Class Franklin Sousley, Private First Class Ira Hayes, and Navy Corpsman John Bradley, the same Bradley who had climbed that morning with the first patrol. They reached the summit at 2 p.m. Associated Press photographer Joe Rosenthal, who had missed the first flag raising, waited at the crater rim with his speed graphic camera. The 6 men found another length of pipe, this one heavier, requiring more men to lift. As the first flag came down, the second went up. Rosenthal captured the moment in one exposure at 2:37 p.m. The photograph would become the most reproduced image in history. 6 men straining to raise a massive flag against cloudy sky, their bodies arranged in perfect diagonal composition. The flag caught mid-unfurl in the wind. What made Rosenthal's photograph possible was the complete absence of enemy fire. Japanese defenders concentrated in Suribachi's northern tunnels had expended their ammunition during the morning attack on the first flag. The 4-hour gap between raisings allowed them to relocate, reposition, and prioritize other defensive sectors. The second flag went up in what Rosenthal later described as suspiciously calm conditions, a lull so unusual that several Marines commented on it immediately after the raising. The first flag came down, folded carefully, and was handed to Corporal Robert Leader with explicit orders from Captain Dave Severance. "Take this to battalion. Keep it safe. This is going to matter." Leader folded the flag into his pack. He intended to deliver it to battalion headquarters as ordered. But events moved too quickly. The battle for Iwo Jima would rage for 34 more days. In that time, Leader's company would advance, fall back, advance again, suffering 73% casualties. Officers died. Chain of command collapsed and reformed hourly. Written orders became meaningless in the chaos of close combat, where Marines fought Japanese defenders room by room through underground tunnels, burning them out with flamethrowers and satchel charges. Somewhere in that chaos, Leader stopped trying to deliver the flag. He kept it,
And he began to notice something impossible. By February 27, 1945, 4 days after the flag raising, the tactical picture on Iwo Jima had crystallized into brutal arithmetic. The 28th Marines, who had raised both flags on Suribachi, had been effectively destroyed as a fighting unit. Of the 3,000 Marines who landed on February 19th, fewer than 1,200 remained combat effective. The rest were dead, wounded, or evacuated with combat fatigue so severe they couldn't hold rifles. Of the 6 men who raised the first flag at 10:37 a.m., 5 would be casualties within 6 days. Sergeant Ernest Boots Thomas, killed by machine gun fire March 3 when assaulting Hill 362A. Sergeant Henry Hansen, killed by artillery fire March 1 during the assault on Nishi Ridge. Corporal Charles Lindbergh, wounded by mortar shrapnel February 26, evacuated to USS Samaritan. Private First Class James Mickles, wounded by grenade fragments February 28, returned to duty March 4, wounded again March 12 by sniper fire. Navy Corpsman John Bradley, wounded by mortar fire March 21, evacuated with shrapnel wounds to both legs. Only Lieutenant Harold Schreier, who led the patrol but did not physically raise the flag, survived Iwo Jima without wounds. Of the 6 men in Joe Rosenthal's famous photograph of the second raising, 3 would die on Iwo Jima. Sergeant Michael Strank, killed by friendly naval artillery fire March 1. Corporal Harlan Block, killed by mortar fire March 1. Private First Class Franklin Sousley, killed by sniper fire March 21. The mathematics were stark. 11 men participated in the 2 flag raisings on Mount Suribachi. Within 30 days, 3 were dead, 3 were wounded seriously enough to be evacuated, and 2 more were wounded but remained in combat. Only 3, Schreier, Gagnon, and Hayes, survived unscathed, and Hayes would spend the rest of his life haunted by survivor's guilt that would eventually drive him to alcoholism and early death in 1955. Corporal Robert Leader should have been among the casualties. His company, Easy Company, 2nd Battalion, 28th Marines, suffered the highest casualty rate of any company in the 5th Marine Division. On March 2, a Japanese knee mortar barrage killed 4 men in Leader's squad and wounded 6 others. Leader, standing in the same crater, received no wounds. A sniper round struck his helmet on March 7, creasing the steel without penetrating. The impact knocked him unconscious for 3 minutes. When he woke, the flag was still in his pack. On March 14th, a buried Japanese mine detonated under an Amtrak carrying Leader's squad to the front lines. The explosion killed 3 Marines and wounded 7. Leader, sitting directly above the mine's location, was thrown 15 feet into the air. He landed hard, breaking 2 ribs, but the flag in his pack was undamaged. Leader began telling other Marines the flag was his good luck charm. They laughed at first. Then, men in his platoon started touching the flag before patrols, just reaching over and brushing it with their fingers while Leader had his pack open. By the final week of fighting, when every Marine on Iwo Jima had seen enough death to believe in anything that might keep them alive, Leader's flag had acquired a reputation. When Lieutenant Colonel Justice Chambers examined casualty reports for the 28th Marines and noticed Leader's impossible survival record, he summoned the corporal to his command post. "I'm told you still have the first flag," Chambers said. "The one from the morning raising." "Yes, sir," Leader admitted. "You were ordered to deliver it to battalion." "Yes, sir." Chambers looked at Leader for a long moment. The lieutenant colonel had lost 73% of his regiment. He had personally written letters to 400 families, informing them their sons were dead. He had stopped expecting rational explanations for who lived and who died. "Keep it," Chambers finally said, "but if you lose it, I'll have you court-martialed." Leader kept it through the remaining 10 days of fighting on Iwo Jima. He kept it when the island was declared secure on March 26, 1945, though Japanese holdouts would continue fighting for months afterward. He kept it when the 28th Marines sailed for Hawaii to reconstitute. And he kept it through 11 more battles in the Pacific War. The official Marine Corps Historical Division records show Corporal Robert Leader participated in the following operations after Iwo Jima: Okinawa Invasion, April 1 to June 21, 1945, Okinawa Mop-Up Operations, July 2 to August 15, 1945, Occupation of Japan, September 2 to October 14, 1945, but Leader's personal diary, donated to the Marine Corps Museum in 1998, the same year the flag was finally examined, reveals he kept the flag through combat operations that never made it into official records. Patrol actions, raid operations, the small, brutal skirmishes that fill the gaps between major battles in official histories. Leader survived all of them. The flag, folded in his pack, survived with him. When Suzanne Thomason Krause examined the flag in 1998, she found volcanic ash from Mount Suribachi embedded in the wool fibers. She also found coral dust from Okinawa, clay soil from the Japanese mainland, and salt deposits from 11 different Pacific islands. Chemical analysis dated the deposits across a 7-month period, February through August 1945. Leader had carried the flag through every battlefield in the final campaign of the Pacific War. Against direct orders, against military regulations that classified the flag as government property requiring immediate surrender. He carried it because he believed it kept him alive. The forensic evidence suggested he might have been right. To understand why the first Iwo Jima flag became an object of such belief requires understanding the Japanese defensive philosophy that made Mount Suribachi the deadliest square mile in the Pacific War. Commander Tadamichi Kuribayashi's orders regarding flag raisers were not arbitrary. They represented calculated psychological warfare based on Japanese military doctrine developed through 4 years of losing battles across the Pacific. Lieutenant Toshihiko Ono's logs from the 312th Independent Infantry Battalion, declassified in 1991, reveal the specific reasoning. American forces demonstrate peculiar attachment to symbolic acts. Their soldiers will risk death to raise flags on captured positions, even when tactical situation makes such display counterproductive. Flag raisers demonstrate leadership qualities and high morale.
Eliminating such individuals creates disproportionate psychological impact on remaining enemy forces. Priority targeting protocols. Enemy soldiers raising flags are worth 10 standard kills for purposes of commendation and promotion. Kuribayashi distributed these orders throughout his command in January 1945. Every Japanese defensive position on Iwo Jima received explicit instructions to target flag raisers preferentially. Machine gun positions were cited specifically to provide overlapping fields of fire on likely flag-raising locations, typically the highest points in any defensive sector. Mount Suribachi's summit qualified emphatically as such a location. The Japanese defensive preparations on Suribachi demonstrated this priority. Naval construction battalions had carved 17 machine gun positions into the volcano's northern slope specifically to cover the summit plateau. Each position featured reinforced concrete walls 3 feet thick, firing ports positioned to minimize exposure, and interconnected tunnels allowing crews to relocate between positions without surface exposure. The Type 96 light machine gun emplacement at coordinates 145J9, the weapon that fired on the first flag raising, represented standard Japanese defensive engineering. The position sat 350 yards from the summit, precisely calibrated for the Type 96's effective range of 800 yards. At that distance, a trained Japanese machine gunner could place bullets in a 3-foot circle. The American flag measured 54 inches wide by 28 inches tall. It should have been an easy target. But the mathematics of battlefield ballistics involve more than just range and accuracy. Wind speed affects bullet trajectory. At Suribachi's summit, prevailing winds averaged 15 miles per hour, strong enough to make the flag whip and dance unpredictably. A bullet fired at a stationary target will hit that target with reasonable reliability.
A bullet fired at a target moving randomly three-dimensional space faces exponentially worse odds. Still, Japanese gunners fired over 200 rounds at the first flag-raising party between 10:37 a.m. and 11:15 a.m. Marine spotters on the beach counted the muzzle flashes. After-action reports documented 47 bullet impacts within 10 feet of the flagpole. That represents 23.5% accuracy on near-miss strikes, better than average for combat conditions, but not exceptional. What defies statistical probability is not that Japanese gunners missed 77% of their shots. That's normal. What defies probability is that none of the 47 near-miss shots struck the flag itself by chance. A 54 by 28-inch rectangle of fabric, moving unpredictably in wind, managed to avoid 47 bullets that struck within 10 feet of its location. The physics calculation is straightforward. The flag's surface area represented approximately 10.5 square feet. The 10-foot radius circle around the flagpole contained approximately 314 square feet of space. If bullets distributed randomly within that area, which ballistic physics suggests they should, the flag should have received approximately 3.3% of the total hits. 47 hits multiplied by 3.3% equals 1.55 expected strikes on the flag. The actual number was 0. In statistical terms, this represents an outcome with probability of roughly 0.4%. Not impossible, but highly unlikely. The kind of unlikely that makes people start believing in luck. Commander Kuribayashi's defensive philosophy had worked perfectly in tactical terms. His gunners had targeted the flag raisers exactly as ordered. 5 of 6 would become casualties within days. The priority targeting doctrine achieved its intended psychological impact. Marines learned that raising flags drew concentrated enemy fire, making future flag raisings on Iwo Jima happen quickly and with minimal ceremony. But the flag itself survived. And in that survival lay the seeds of something Kuribayashi's tactical doctrine had not anticipated: the creation of a talismanic object that would reinforce American morale rather than degrading it. Japanese military philosophy in World War II prioritized mission success over individual survival. Kamikaze tactics, banzai charges, and defensive doctrines that expected 100% casualties all reflected this fundamental cultural approach to warfare. American military philosophy prioritized bringing soldiers home alive while accomplishing missions. This difference shaped everything from aircraft design to medical evacuation procedures. It also shaped how both sides interpreted the survival of the first Iwo Jima flag.
Japanese records, captured after the war, show that Lieutenant Ono reported the first flag raising to Commander Kuribayashi with notation that targeted individuals subsequently removed symbolic object and withdrew, suggesting successful psychological impact of concentrated fire. Kuribayashi interpreted the flag's replacement 4 hours later as confirmation his doctrine worked. The Americans had taken down their flag under fire. He never knew the flag had simply been replaced with a larger version. He never knew the first flag survived. And he never could have predicted that surviving flag would be carried through 11 more battles as a good luck charm that reinforced exactly the morale he sought to destroy. The consequences of the first flag's survival rippled across the Pacific War in ways neither Japanese planners nor American commanders could have predicted. While Joe Rosenthal's famous photograph of the second flag raising became the iconic image of American victory, eventually reproduced on war bonds, recruiting posters, and the Marine Corps Memorial in Arlington, the first flag developed a parallel legend in the underground culture of frontline Marines. Corporal Robert Leader's survival record became statistically impossible by any reasonable standard.
At Okinawa, April 1 through June 21, 1945, Easy Company participated in 82 days of continuous combat. The company began the invasion with 242 men. By June 21, when organized resistance collapsed, 179 had become casualties, a 74% casualty rate that exceeded even Iwo Jima's devastation. Leader survived without wounds. On May 4, during the Japanese counterattack at the Kochi Ridge, a Nambu machine gun position opened fire on Leader's squad at 30 yards range, point-blank distance where missed shots are almost impossible. The gun fired 47 rounds before Marines destroyed the position with a satchel charge. 4 men in Leader's squad were killed. 3 were wounded. Leader, standing in the center of the formation, received no hits. The flag was in his pack. On May 18th, during the assault on Sugarloaf Hill, the most costly single battle of the Okinawa campaign, Leader's platoon advanced through an artillery barrage that killed 11 men and wounded 19 others in a single minute of concentrated fire. Leader was knocked unconscious by concussion, but physically unharmed. When he regained consciousness, his pack containing the flag had been blown 15 feet away, but remained intact. On June 2, a Japanese sniper fired 3 shots at Leader from a cave position. The first round struck his rifle, breaking the stock and rendering the weapon inoperable. The second round hit his canteen, punching through the aluminum and dumping water down his leg. The third round missed entirely. Before the sniper could fire again, another Marine killed him with a rifle grenade. Leader retrieved his pack with the flag and continued the advance. By June 21, every other man from Leader's original company at Iwo Jima was dead, wounded, or had been rotated out due to combat fatigue. Leader remained untouched, with the flag still folded in his pack. Marines in other companies began hearing about Leader's flag. The story spread through the 5th Marine Division, then to other divisions on Okinawa. Soon, Marines from completely different units were asking Leader if they could touch the flag before patrols. He initially refused. Following orders meant keeping the flag hidden and secret. But after watching enough friends die, Leader started granting requests. On July 12, 1945, during mop-up operations in southern Okinawa, 20 Marines from 3 different companies lined up before a patrol to touch Leader's pack where the flag lay folded inside. All 20 survived the patrol unharmed. Their target objective, a cave complex sheltering an estimated 50 Japanese holdouts, resulted in 42 enemy killed, with 0 American casualties. The Marines credited the flag. Lieutenant Colonel Justice Chambers, now promoted to colonel and commanding officer of the 28th Marines, heard about the flag's growing reputation. He summoned Leader again. "I'm told men are lining up to touch your pack," Chambers said. "Yes, sir," Leader admitted. "Permission to explain?" "You don't need permission. They believe it works. That's what matters. Marines who believe they're going to survive fight harder and make fewer fatal mistakes. I don't care if it's superstition or divine intervention. Keep carrying that flag as long as men believe in it." "Sir, Marine Corps regulations state—" "I'm aware what regulations state, Corporal. I'm also aware that regulations don't stop bullets. That flag apparently does. Dismissed." Leader continued carrying the flag through the occupation of Japan. On September 2, 1945, when Japan formally surrendered aboard USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay, Leader stood on the deck of USS Estes as part of the Marine Security Detachment. The first Iwo Jima flag was in his pack. He had carried it 5,400 miles across the Pacific Ocean, through 12 major battles and dozens of minor actions, through 12 months of continuous combat. The flag had acquired holes from wear and tear. The fabric was 53 years old when Thomas and Krauss examined it in 1998. But forensic analysis showed those holes resulted from age and friction, not enemy fire. Chemical residue testing searched for powder burns, bullet metal transfer, or shrapnel scarring. The testing found none. On October 14, 1945, when the 28th Marines officially disbanded in San Diego, Leader attempted to keep the flag. A sharp-eyed quartermaster sergeant noticed the unusual bundle in Leader's pack during discharge processing. "What's that, Corporal?" Leader hesitated. He had survived 12 months of combat. He had watched hundreds of friends die. He believed, genuinely believed, that the flag in his pack had kept him alive through battles where survival should have been impossible. The thought of surrendering it felt like surrendering his life. "It's government property," Leader finally said. "First flag raised on Suribachi. I was supposed to turn it in February 45. Things got complicated." The quartermaster sergeant examined the flag, noted its condition, and filled out the required forms. The flag went to storage at Marine Corps headquarters in Washington, D.C., where it remained in darkness for 53 years until Suzanne Thomason Krauss pulled it from archival storage for examination. Leader never saw the flag again. He died in 1983 at age 62, survived by a wife, 3 children, and 8 grandchildren. His obituary in the San Diego Union Tribune made no mention of his survival record. The Marine Corps awarded him 1 Purple Heart for the broken rib sustained during the mine explosion on Iwo Jima. He received no other combat decorations. His diary, donated to the Marine Corps Museum in 1998, contains this entry from October 14, 1945. "Turned in the flag today. Feel like I just lost my guardian angel. Sergeant says I'm being superstitious. Maybe, but I touched that flag before every patrol for 8 months and came home alive when better men died all around me. If that's superstition, I'll take superstition over luck any day." The statistical analysis of Corporal Robert Leader's survival record, compiled by Marine Corps Historical Division researchers in 1999, reveals probability patterns that defy conventional explanation. Between February 23, 1945, and September 2, 1945, Leader participated in documented combat operations on Iwo Jima, February 23 through March 26, 31 days of sustained combat. Okinawa, April 1 through June 21, 82 days of sustained combat. Okinawa Mup-Up, July 2 through August 15, 45 days of patrol operations. Occupation of Japan, September 2 through October 14, security operations, minimal combat. Total time in combat zones, 158 days. Total documented firefights, 94. Total enemy fire incidents where Leader was specifically present, 67. Casualty statistics for Marines in Leader's specific units during this period. Easy Company, 2nd Battalion, 28th Marines, Iwo Jima, 73% casualty rate. Easy Company, 2nd Battalion, 28th Marines, Okinawa, 74% casualty rate. Combined casualty rate for Marines serving continuously in both campaigns, 91%. Leader's personal casualty record: 2 broken ribs from mine explosion, 1 helmet crease from sniper fire, 1 concussion from artillery near miss, 0 gunshot wounds, 0 shrapnel wounds, 0 burns, 0 serious injuries requiring evacuation. Statistical probability of surviving both Iwo Jima and Okinawa without serious wounds for Marines in frontline rifle companies, approximately 9%. Statistical probability of surviving both campaigns while being present at 67 documented firefights, less than 2%. The researchers noted, Corporal Leader's survival record falls within the realm of statistical possibility, but represents an extreme outlier. His belief that the flag provided protection cannot be supported by physical evidence. However, psychological research on combat effectiveness suggests soldiers who believe they possess protective talismans demonstrate increased situational awareness and make fewer tactical errors. The protective effect may have been self-fulfilling.
By comparison, the fate of those who raised both flags on Mount Suribachi provides stark contrast. First flag-raising casualties, 6 participants. Ernest Boots Thomas, killed in action, March 3, 1945. Henry Hansen, killed in action, March 1, 1945. Charles Lindbergh, wounded twice, survived the war, died 1971. James Michaels, wounded 3 times, survived the war, died 2004. Harold Schreer, survived unwounded, died 1971. John Bradley, seriously wounded, evacuated, survived the war, died 1994. Second flag-raising casualties, 6 participants. Michael Strenk, killed in action, March 1, 1945. Harlan Block, killed in action, March 1, 1945. Franklin Sousley, killed in action, March 21, 1945. John Bradley, wounded March 21, evacuated, same man as first raising. Ira Hayes, survived unwounded, died 1955, alcohol-related. René Gagnon, survived unwounded, died 1979. Combined statistics, 12 participants, counting Bradley once, 3 killed in action on Iwo Jima, 3 wounded on Iwo Jima, 6 survived to war's end. Of those 6 survivors, 3 died relatively young from causes related to psychological trauma. The flag those men raised survived better than the men who raised it. Forensic examination results from Thomas and Krause's 1998 analysis. Physical dimensions, 54 inches wide, 28 inches tall, standard Marine Corps issue. Material, wool bunting, cotton stars. Manufacturer, Detra Flag Company, Oaks, Pennsylvania. Date of manufacturer, estimated 1944 based on stitching patterns. Combat damage, none detected. Age-belated deterioration, moderate fading, minor fraying at edges. Environmental deposits, volcanic ash, Mount Suribachi, coral dust, Okinawa, clay soil, Japanese mainland, salt deposits, multiple Pacific locations. Chemical testing for combat trauma markers. Powder burn residue, negative. Bullet metal transfer, negative. Shrapnel scarring, negative. Explosive residue, negative. Blood or tissue residue, negative. The flag showed every sign of being carried through 12 months of Pacific combat, except the one sign that should have been inevitable: damage from enemy fire. Comparative context matters here. The Marine Corps' museum collection contains 347 American flags documented to have been carried in World War II combat. Of these, 291, 84%, show visible combat damage ranging from bullet holes to complete destruction. Only 56 flags, 16%, survived without documented damage, and nearly all of those came from rear echelon units that never experienced direct combat. The first Iwo Jima flag is the only known example of a flag carried through sustained frontline combat over multiple campaigns that shows zero combat damage, despite documented enemy fire specifically targeting that flag and its bearers. When Thomas and Krause presented her findings to the Marine Corps Historical Division in November 1998, her report concluded, "The absence of combat damage on this flag cannot be definitively explained through physical analysis.
The flag was present in combat environments where documented enemy fire resulted in casualties among personnel carrying the flag. The flag's survival represents either extraordinary statistical fortune or factors beyond current forensic methodology to identify. The Marine Corps Historical Division added a final note to her report. Regardless of physical explanation, the first Iwo Jima flag served its intended purpose. It raised American morale at a critical moment in the Pacific War's costliest battle. That it survived to inspire continued morale through subsequent battles represents mission success, whether attributable to probability, providence, or protection. The flag remains in the National Museum of American History's collection today, displayed periodically in special exhibitions, but primarily kept in climate-controlled storage to preserve its deteriorating fibers. Museum policy prohibits visitors from touching historical artifacts. The Marines who once lined up to touch leaders' pack for luck would be denied that opportunity today. Perhaps they wouldn't need it. The war they fought ended 78 years ago, but the flag they believed in still exists, still intact, still carrying the volcanic ash of Mount Suribachi and its wool fibers, physical proof that it was there on February 23, 1945, when 6 Marines raised it under concentrated enemy fire and somehow, impossibly, brought it down again without a single bullet hole. September 12, 1998, Conservation Laboratory, National Museum of American History. Suzanne Thomason Krause placed the first Iwo Jima flag back into its archival storage box, sealing it away from light and humidity for another generation. The examination had answered some questions and raised others.
Yes, the flag was authentic. Volcanic ash deposits confirmed its presence on Mount Suribachi. Yes, it showed no combat damage. Every forensic test confirmed that. No, there was no physical explanation for its survival. Probability analysis suggested the flag should have been hit at least once, likely multiple times. The famous photograph captured the second flag raising, the safer raising, the one during the lull in enemy fire, the perfect image that sold $26 billion in war bonds and became the model for the Marine Corps Memorial. That photograph showed 6 men raising a flag during a moment when Japanese guns were silent. The first flag, the one raised during concentrated enemy fire, the one that 5 of 6 flag raisers would not survive the week after raising, the one that should have been shredded by 200 bullets, vanished from official history until this examination. Corporal Robert Leader carried it illegally through 11 more battles, believing it made him bulletproof. By conventional military standards, he violated direct orders and should have faced court-martial. By combat survivor standards, he did what any rational person would do when confronted with unexplainable luck. He kept it close and never let go until forced. The Marine Corps never disciplined Leader for keeping the flag. Colonel Chambers, who ordered him to keep carrying it despite regulations, understood something essential about combat motivation. Marines who believe they're protected fight harder, make better decisions, and survive longer. Whether the flag actually provided protection was irrelevant. The belief itself had tactical value. This raises uncomfortable questions about the nature of luck, protection, and survival in combat. Did the flag survive because probability occasionally produces extreme outliers? Did it survive because Marines carrying it fought more carefully, consciously or unconsciously protecting their talisman? Did it survive because, in the chaos of combat, where bullets and shrapnel fill the air randomly, sometimes objects simply pass through that chaos untouched by pure chance? Or did it survive for reasons beyond physical explanation? The forensic evidence cannot answer that question. The statistical analysis cannot answer it. The historical record preserves the facts but offers no conclusion. 200 enemy rounds fired at a flag that emerged without damage.
47 near-miss impacts within 10 feet, 0 hits on the flag itself. One Marine carried it through 12 months of frontline combat and came home alive when 91% of his peers became casualties. These are facts. The explanation remains elusive. What can be stated definitively is this. The first Iwo Jima flag accomplished exactly what Lieutenant Colonel Chandler Johnson intended when he ordered it raised on February 23, 1945. It demonstrated American presence on captured ground. It boosted morale at a critical moment. It became a symbol worth preserving, worth protecting, worth believing in. That Johnson ordered the flag replaced and preserved suggests he understood symbolic value transcends tactical utility. That leader carried it through 11 more battles suggests frontline Marines understood the same thing. That 5 flag raisers died within days while the flag survived suggests that sometimes the symbol outlasts those who create it, a truth as old as warfare itself. The famous photograph shows the second, safer flag raising. The photograph Americans remember, reproduce, and revere captures a moment of comparative calm during Iwo Jima's chaos. It's a beautiful image. It deserves its iconic status. But the first flag, the one raised under fire, the one that survived the unsurvivable, the one hidden in Corporal Leader's pack through 12 months of hell, tells a different story. It tells a story about belief, about luck, about the mysterious mathematics of survival when rational probability says you should be dead. Joe Rosenthal's photograph captured history. The first flag became legend. The flag that never should have survived Mount Suribachi survived Mount Suribachi. It survived Okinawa. It survived the entire Pacific War. It survived 53 years in storage. It sits today in a climate-controlled archive 79 years after 6 Marines raised it on a volcanic mountain while Japanese machine guns fired 200 rounds at them and somehow, impossibly, explainably, miraculously missed. The flag that should have been destroyed was never touched. The men who raised it were destroyed instead. And in that inversion lies the entire paradox of combat survival. Sometimes the things that should be bulletproof are flesh and blood, and sometimes the things that should be shredded are just fabric and thread, and the universe makes no promises about which is which.
Corporal Robert Leader believed the flag kept him alive. 5 of his fellow flag raisers died believing no such thing. Leader came home. They didn't. Whether the flag was truly lucky or Leader was simply lucky to have the flag is a question forensic analysis cannot resolve. But when Suzanne Thomason Krause sealed that flag back into archival darkness in 1998, she understood something essential. The first Iwo Jima flag survived because it had to survive. Not for tactical reasons, not for historical preservation. It survived because sometimes, in the worst moments of the worst battles in the worst war in human history, people need to believe that something, anything, can pass through hell untouched. The flag provided that belief, and belief, more than armor or luck or probability, is what brings people home alive. The examination at Clark Field in 1945 proved Japanese bombers sacrificed crew protection for mission capability. The examination at the National Museum of American History in 1998 proved the first Iwo Jima flag sacrificed nothing and survived anyway. One examination exposed fatal design philosophy. The other revealed enduring mystery. Both examinations asked the same fundamental question: what matters more, completing the mission or protecting those who undertake it? The Japanese chose mission. The Americans chose both. And when the war ended, the American flag still flew, untouched, while the men who raised it lay in graves across the Pacific. That is not justice. That is not fairness.
That is simply what happened. And sometimes, when forensic analysis fails and statistical probability offers no answers, all that remains is the simple fact of survival itself, inexplicable, undeniable, and impossible to explain away. The first Iwo Jima flag survived. That is enough.